All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising. I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. All right, share this out, share this out, share this out. All right, it's Friday. Law of One. Sorry, I was trying to share this out, and when I switched back over to Facebook to share this out, I don't know how, but somehow I clicked on Ancient Aliens Worldwide, and I changed my profile from my profile to Ancient Aliens Worldwide. Then I had to try and change it back. Then I had to go to Orion Rising, which changes it again, and then share it from there and try to get back before the song was over. And it was just, here, let me turn off that overlay. And it was just crazy. Right? So please share this out. So hold on, let me put myself up in full screen here so that you guys can see my ugly mug. So welcome. So let me take a look at the chat here and see who's here. Brianna, welcome. Denise, welcome. Penny, welcome. Rick, welcome. Cody, welcome. If you're here and you don't say hi, I don't know who's in the audience. Then I can't say hello to you. So hello to everybody else. And then, of course, if you're on Twitter and if you're listening on the MP3 broadcast around the world, I can't see you anyways. You guys are listening. Paulie, welcome. You guys are listening, and I can't. So I can't see that whether you're here or not. You see what I'm saying? Because you guys can't talk into the chat. So the only people who can get in the chat are the people on YouTube and the people on Facebook in the different areas, because Twitter doesn't come in here. Don't know why. And the MP3 broadcast is MP3 most of the time. You guys are listening on an app, and it's audio only, anyways. So there is no thing to throw into the mix. But you guys can get a hold of me. And if you have questions around the world, you can always send me a direct message either on all the platforms, really, although I'm not on TikTok anymore because chances are it's going to be banned in the United States unless they sell it to an American company. If that happens, I'll get back on TikTok. But until then, I'm deleting my TikTok profile. So you can contact me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, my email, anywhere else, Twitter. You can still contact me if you guys have questions. Okay, Paulie, did I say welcome? I don't know if I said hello, right? Joanna, I don't know if I said hello to you either. So hello, welcome, guys. All right, so it's Friday night. So we're going to end up getting right into the Law of One. But one thing I wanted to point out about we just had today is the 12th on the 8th was which is Monday, was the solar eclipse. I didn't bring it up last week, but the solar eclipse happened on the new moon. So during the day, when everybody here in the United States was waiting for the solar eclipse to happen, you couldn't see the moon because the moon wasn't out. It's a full moon, not a full moon, a new moon, so it's dark. So even though otherwise we would be able to have seen the moon prior to it going in front of the sun. But because of it going in front of the sun, it had to be a new moon for that to happen. Because if it was not a new moon, it was a full moon, the moon would actually be on the other side of the planet so that the sun's reflecting off of it down here. So so I wanted to bring that up. So, logistically, for a daytime solar eclipse to be seen from the Earth, it has to be a new moon for that to happen, because otherwise you'll see the reflection of the sunlight on the moon. So the only way that could happen is that literally the moon is facing the same direction as the sun, so there is no reflection for you to see. So it has to be a new moon. And I didn't even think about bringing that up to talk about that. I know that that's science nerdy stuff that some of you probably are like, whatever, dude, didn't even cross my mind. But that's the only way a solar eclipse can happen in the daytime, is it has to be a new moon. Because if you can see the reflection, that means that the moon is at the opposite direction from the sun, from where the Earth is, because the sunlight is coming off the moon. So at night, when you see the moon, it's because the sun is on the other side of the planet, and the moon is reflecting the sunlight onto the Earth. So in the area that you are seeing the moon from, wherever you are around the planet. People don't realize that logistics. And I just happened to look at the calendar and I was like, of course, yeah, I should have mentioned that last week before the solar eclipse, that it had to be the new moon as well. So it always happens on a new moon wherever you are on the planet. Can't happen on a full moon. There can't be a solar eclipse, total solar eclipse, or any solar eclipse if the moon is reflecting the sunlight, because it has to be on the opposite reflection mirror You can't have the mirror sitting in front of the of something, right, and showing you a reflection of it. So it has to be on the other side, right? Okay. So I don't know if that's confusing to you guys, but but I wanted to bring that up, right? Rick said, "Oh, I'm bugger. I'm going to watch from bed." So if you're not up yet, what are you guys sick? Everybody's sick around the world, right? Everybody's getting sick apparently. It's that time of year where they're trying to ramp up. Did you hear the news here in the United States where they're like, a bird flu just appeared everywhere, and it looks like a human got it and a cow got it. So now all of a sudden, the bird flu has evolved overnight to be able to infect humans and cows all at the exact same time, right? So it's obvious that they're planning. We have an election coming up here in the United States in October, November, depending on where you are and when you vote in the United States. It's supposed to be November because that's when the voting is. But the only way that they're going to be able to not have a debate and not put Joe Biden up against Donald Trump in a debate is they have to have a reason to not. Joe Biden's already saying, well, I'll debate Donald Trump if he's nice. It depends on his attitude, because Donald Trump's like, I'll debate you anytime. In fact, let's get one scheduled. And Joe Biden can't debate Donald Trump. It's not going to happen. This isn't 2020. This is 2024. And his cognitive ability has declined even further. I know that I don't care whether you like him or not, right? I don't care if you like Trump or not. I know I'm going to trigger at least half of you, no matter what I say, whether I'm talking about Donald Trump or if I'm talking about Joe Biden. But you watch how they're going to try and do lockdowns for some. They're already talking about, like last year, they talked about triple-demic flu and a COVID and something else, right? So they're going to ramp up as we go through. Right now, they can't sell it to you in the summer, but people do get sick in this time of year. Is the reason I bring that up. That does happen here in the United States around now, just like during COVID and after that, ever since the 4th of July. They were like, everybody's going to die because you're all going to see each other and you're all going to hug each other and you're all going to get sick and we're going to see an influx of people dying from COVID. That never happened, by the way, after the 4th of July, even though they were trying to get everybody afraid. They'll try it again. It's April, May, June, July, right? They're already going to ramp up because we have a holiday here in the United States in May, right? May is Memorial Day. Watch how they start on that as we get into May. And then July, watch how they go into that in that time period. And as soon as we get anywhere near October, they're going to try everything they can do to scare everybody into believing that death is coming. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are riding across the sky, and the pale horse. I just saw the pale horse. I have the book right here. As a matter of fact, behold a pale horse. I do. It's right there. In fact, this camera is sitting on top of a stack of books, and one of them is the CIA whistleblower writing the book, Behold a Pale Horse. So I can't show it to you because I'd have to move the camera. Okay. So, right. Yeah, I know you don't care about Rick. You're in Australia. Why would you care? That's like the people in Brazil, although they really need to know what's going on over there because you guys need to be paying attention, especially in Australia, but anywhere in the world for that matter, and America, to what's going on in Brazil right now, because what's going on in Brazil right now is what's going to be going on in Australia that's already starting, and what's going to be going on in America, which is already starting, where you're going to have the communist dictatorship that's in charge in those countries trying to fully turn your country not into a socialist democratic state like they're trying to tell you, but a full-on oligarch-run communist country, just like Russia and China is currently, and North Korea is currently. But those are actually, well, the Chinese Communist Party is oligarchs. The North Korea is in fact a polyarch because it's one individual, and Russia is a polyarch as well. Because I mean, let's look at Vladimir Putin, who's been the president over there for now, 120 years, something like that, over and over, which they keep telling you. They said that about George Bush Jr., that he was never going to get out of office. When he gets into power, he's going to be a dictator for life. Then when he got out of office and Barack Obama got in there, the conservatives said, Barack Obama's never going to give up power. He's going to be a dictator for life. As soon as he got out of power and Trump got into power, they said he was going to do the same thing. And then he got out of power. Nobody is saying it about Biden, which he'll probably try. because they've been trying. But they're also already saying it about Trump again. If he gets back into power, it's the end of democracy, and he's going to be an evil dictator forever. They've said that about every president since George Bush Sr. in the United States. Every president who's got into office, they're like, he's never giving it up. He's going to enact some special thing, which isn't actually there. We're not Rome. That's part of the Roman Empire that the United States did not adopt. That when if we go to war, the president becomes a dictator for life and takes control of everything and then gives up the power. That's what happened in Rome, by the way. And Julius Caesar didn't give up the power. And then you had these Caesars that were in charge from that point on. And eventually the church won out and took control. And that's why we have the whole separation of church and state, because then the church ran the government and they become the oligarchs that ran Rome until they got rid of them. Okay. But first it was dictators, kings, just by a different name. Right. Those of you who have Europe minded, well, a pharaoh is not a king. That's what pharaoh means. That's what czar means. That's what Caesar means king. It's just a different language. Okay, guys. President doesn't mean king. That's why president is an elected office that is limited. And that's why we use that term here in the United States, because they talked about electing a king and having elections for kings. And they said, no, a king means monarchy. We can't have that. So they went to president, which by its very definition, if you look it up, means not a king, not a monarch. It's an elected office, purely. And then we set up our government over here to have 3 co-equal branches. And you guys think that means Senate, House, and the presidency. It doesn't. It means Congress, which is the Senate and House, the presidency, and the co-equal government on the third part of the equalship is the Supreme Court of the United States of America. They are just as powerful and as equal as the presidency, just as power and is equal as the House and the Senate. Okay. And most people don't even realize that in this country. And you have the Senate and the House talking smack about the lawyers, judges in the Supreme Court, as if they're just a circuit judge or some judge down on a city court, and that they don't mean anything. They know that they are literally a co-equal branch of government. Okay. And then you have people like Nancy Pelosi who claim that the Speaker of the House is a co-equal branch of government, standalone, that the House and the Senate are not one body. She was acting like she has the power. Whoever has the gavel is basically the president of the United States. You're not. They're third in line for the presidency if the president and the vice president gets assassinated, but then you become president pro temp. Okay, so you become president until we have an election. And then if you pass the election, then you become president, giving you guys a little bit of history on what goes on in the American government that most people don't think of. And they're like, well, then what would stop the Speaker of the House from just assassinating everybody? That. Okay. That. You don't get to keep the presidency unless people vote you in. Same thing with the vice president when they become, if the president, like under John F. Kennedy, when he got assassinated and Lyndon Johnson became the president of the United States, I believe it was Lyndon. Yeah. He had to be elected after that. He served the term, but he had to be reelected to become the president again. You don't just get the presidency for 4 years. You get it for the rest of. So if the person has 1 day left as president and they get assassinated, you're president for 1 day and then there's an election. If it's 2 years, then you have 2 years. If it, you know what I mean? But even then, the House and the Senate can call for a special election, just like they can over in England with the no confidence rule. They can call for a special election to see if the people really want to keep that person in office, or then have an election and have somebody else. Okay. So I know that's enough government for the day. Okay, so Peter, Reese, welcome. I didn't say hello to you guys. I don't know if I missed anybody. I apologize because I wasn't really looking at the chat. And I don't have my glasses on, so I have to lean back. That's why I keep leaning back when I look at the chat, because from here it's blurry, but from here it's not. Okay, so we ended up finishing, I think, 44 or 45, and I got the next one, which is only 5 minutes long. Prime, but I also have the next session after that primed as well. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'll do a sound check here for you guys. Let me know if you can hear raw okay, and then we'll continue from here. Okay, so let's hit play here, and you guys let me know what you can hear.
April 6th, 1981. 45.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 45.1 Questioner. Could you give us an estimate of the instrument's physical condition for communications now that she is rested? Ra. I am Ra. This instrument's condition as regards the bodily complex is extremely poor. This instrument is not rested. However, this instrument was eager for our contact.
Okay, so I didn't know that, Rick. So Rick said we don't have that no fixed term. It's continuous. So wait a minute. So if you get voted in as president in Australia, or whatever you call that, prime minister, president, they just get to stay in office forever unless somebody challenges them? I would have to talk to you about that. I don't know how that works. I just assumed that you had some form of Western ideology, because most European countries that don't have kings and queens and the like have some form of a presidency that has a term limit. I was unaware of that. Even Russia, Vladimir Putin has been reelected like 6 times. Even they have like a 2-year term or a 3-year term that he has to keep getting reelected for, but people keep voting him in. They don't have a limit to theirs. So I didn't know how that. Thank you, Reese, by the way. It sounds good. And so did Rick. Thank you. Prime minister, right? So it's the English version, right? So somewhat like the English. So it's not 4 years, but someone can stay in for 20 years if they keep getting elected. So it is very similar, if not identical, to the British Parliament, where if you're voted in, you can stay in as long as somebody doesn't, if you get reelected, you can stay in. I get that. That's like Margaret Thatcher. She was like the prime minister for 187 years, I think, after Winston Churchill. Right. There was other people in between, but she was for a long time. She was the prime minister for a very long time. You know what I mean? For England, I jest, but she was in there for a long time. And just like Putin is in Russia, he's in there for a long time. But nobody wants to go against Putin because he kills off anybody that gets in his way. So he's not really an elected official, is he? He's more of a dictator. All right. That's funny. Cassie, welcome. Okay. So I'm glad you guys can hear it. Okay. So let's continue with that. So now they're continuing because last time, if you remember, there was some worry about Carla and her energy and whether or not she had depleted her own personal energy. And I talked about that with your chakras and your energy and transmuting energy, that you should always draw energy in to work with. And I've been teaching this for 35 years, going back to in my 20s. So even longer than that. Well, that's about right, because I'm 56. So 35 years. I've been teaching people when you're transmuting magic, or when I'm a Reiki master teacher as well. When you're using Reiki, Reiki teaches you to draw in the energy of the universe, but you also have to draw in energy to buff that energy to make sure you're not using your own personal energy, because that depletes you quickly. Look at what is his name? I just had it in my brain. It was right at the tip of my brain, and then it went away. Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce was unaware of that. And he was literally going into a trance and then tapping into the Akashic record and literally answering questions for people. And they realized that something was wrong when other people were like, okay, so who's going to win at Churchill Downs in race number 2? And they would write down all the names and they would bet money and win all kinds of money, which would be akin to getting the lottery numbers now, or racehorsing, because there's still racehorses going on around the world in different places, especially here in the United States. And I believe over in Europe as well. So that was doing damage to him. So his wife realized it, and he realized it, and she pulled back and got questions from people, and then would go into the next room, and then he would answer them while he was in a trance, and she would come back to buff that. But he still wasn't pulling energy in to heal himself and to buff that energy of him going to the Akashic records. And eventually he died. He ended up with stomach cancer, and eventually he died from and everyone believes that it was because of all of the studies, books, thousands, like say there's 60 books or something of his predictions, of his things that he wrote down that people asked, and that his wife wrote down. But it ended up killing him because he was unaware of the transmuting energy and taking self-care. And so you have to be, and we talked about that because that was what Ra was talking about last time. And so here, starting this session, Dawn is going back to Dawn. I said Dawn like it was a female name with D-A-W-N, like Dawn of the morning, Dawn, D-O-N. Dawn is asking the question about her and her energy. They actually took a lot of time off, almost a week. I think it was a week. They went from the 28th of March to the 6th of April before they did another session, trying to help her replenish. And this is what Dawn's asking about currently, and Ra's about to answer that. So let's go ahead and continue.
45.2 Questioner. Did the period of abstinence from contact help the instrument's physical condition? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. The probability of this instrument's development of what you would call disease, either of the pulmonary nature or the renal nature, was quite significant at our previous contact. You have averted a possible serious physical malfunction of this instrument's bodily complex.
All right, before we continue, like Rick, I talked about that in the Law of One chat. He said that his energy last week, my energy was through the roof. It was like I was 30 years younger. Depending on your algorithm, on the other side of that, Penny was saying that she has no energy. We all personally have a personal algorithm that ebbs and flows, goes up and down. People who are bipolar, that algorithm, they have an issue with the algorithm, and it can fire up or down, or up and down in minutes. Whereas the most people who don't have an issue that we call bipolar disorder, you have this cicada algorithm that goes up and down and up and down. So if you're not aware of it, you won't realize until you hit a high peak or a low peak that you're on a peak. So another thing that we teach when it comes to your energy and taking self-care and balancing your chakras and eating right, exercising right, getting the right sleep, all of that stuff that helps you with your bodily function, with your mind, body, spirit complex totality, is learning all of these algorithms, all these rhythms of your body. So there are times that you'll be more confused, times that you'll have perfect clarity, times that you will be super energetic, times that you'll be super in doubt, super depressed. And then you have all these other X factors in the world that can cause those things to become accentuated. So, and then you could be just off, you know what I mean? And your rhythm can get off, off kilter if you're off kilter. So all of these things need to be balanced and be paying attention to. So you have to learn about yourself and where your algorithm is. There are people out there that can do a chart just like any other chart that they can do for you when it has to do with your, your own rhythm or your, sun sign and all of that. There's people that know about this stuff and they can help you with that algorithm, but you are the best advocate for yourself. So when you find those times, like Rick, if you remember, 3 weeks ago, you were all down and didn't have any energy and you were having a hard time emotionally. Then now all of a sudden you're up during the new moon. Okay. So pay attention to, maybe even mark it on your calendar, the new moon, which was at this time, which was the 8th of April. I was in that time period, I was very up. Is that part of my algorithm, or was there some other factor that was you had your daughter come in and stay with you for a few days? That might have been because of that, it might have pushed you up to a higher level. So you have to factor in everything that's going on in your life, what's going on geopolitically, what's going on in your finances, all of those things. You have to pay attention to all of that. Do I have the flu? Did I not have the flu? Did I just get over the flu? All those things have to be paid attention to, and you will find that your body has a rhythm. Your body has a rhythm and has really dark down times and then really high up times. And then there's all of that in the middle. Okay. All of that is in the middle. So you have to realize, am I going down or am I coming up? Am I at the peak that's up or am I at the peak that's down? And once you start to track all of this about yourself, then you can make changes to yourself that will help you. I know that I'm going into the shadow part of my algorithm in the low side, so I have to be more aware and try to be more positive. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. On the other hand, I'm going into a high and I'm going to have all kinds of energy and I'm not going to be able to sleep, or I'm not going to get the proper rest, What can I do? Stop drinking caffeine earlier in the day because you know you're going to naturally have more energy. Don't eat a lot of sugar at night because you already know you're going to have a lot more energy that you're going to combat against. Those sort of things. You make subtle changes in the things that you do to help yourself. And then on the downside, you do subtle changes in the opposite to help yourself. Becoming aware and balancing yourself is going to change everything about you. You're going to have far more interesting, balanced life where you're going to be managing yourself a lot better. You're going to have better energy, a better flow. It's going to be easier to balance your chakras, easier if you're doing everything. This is why in the different Bibles, Jesus talked about treating your body as the temple. And everyone talks about that in all ways of spiritual practice, that the body is the temple, and you have to realize that, because it's part of what you have to deal with being in this place. Do you see? Being in the place of doing, I have a pain body, I have a body, I have to become aware of what the body needs. What does my soul need? What does my mind need? What does my body need? Right? So it's literally spirit, mind, body, totality, complex. So you have to look at things in that respect. So what you're eating is a factor, whether you're sleeping is a factor, exercise is a factor, or lack thereof. And then a natural algorithm is going to also factor into that. You have to become aware of all of these things. And for women, it's even worse, because if you still have your period, you have that cycle that is going to be emotional, up and down, a lot of energy, no energy, the whole nines. So you have to pay attention to all those factors. There's a lot that we're supposed to be, anyways, paying attention to, that we don't always pay attention to. We don't know it because no one's teaching us this stuff, because it's been taken from us. Okay, the knowledge of all of these things is not discussed. It's not taught to you in any schools. It's not taught to you in any religions. It's not taught to you by your parents, because their parents never taught them, and their parents never taught them. Why? Because it's discouraged, just like finance, just like government and how it runs and how governments work, just like economic structure of the world economics, and the economics of your governmental system that you're living under. None of that, civics, none of that is being taught to you anymore. They just eradicated that. What they call over here in the United States, the greatest generation, which is the generation of my mother and before her, they were taught that stuff. When they got into power, they took it away from all of us, because those are the people that have all the money now. Okay, so they don't want us. I talked about that, and I talk about it all the time. They don't want you knowing how to succeed to become their adversary, their competition. So they've eradicated your knowledge, and they don't teach it to you. It's there if you go looking for it. Same thing with everything I'm saying to you right now. It's not being taught to you. But it's there if you go looking for it, so you can't go after them and say they tried to eradicate this knowledge from the world. And the way the universe works, they also can't get into trouble, because it's there for you. You just have to be aware that it's there for you to look for. And if you're not smart enough to go, hey, those people are rich, how did they get rich? Most people just go, well, they were born into it, and that's just all that there is to that. Since they had a silver spoon in their mouth, that's how come they're rich. Well, a lot of that factors into it, but the reason that family has generational wealth is because they took away the knowledge from all the generations after someone made a lot of money, and they teach their kids how to keep it and make more, but they're not letting you know about it. The same thing with energy, the same thing with the structures, the domiciles that we live in. They're not called domiciles anymore, because they are not dome-shaped. Okay, they are called structures because they are square. They are the lowest vibrational energy resonance that they can give you. They don't want you living in caves, because caves are usually a dome shape. And that's a lot more energy. That's why most of the governments of the world, if you look at their governmental building, it has a dome. Okay, because they are aware of what that does. That's why all churches have steeples and domes. Okay, that's why they have those. It's not just, oh, well, in some places, because they have a lot of snow, they have to have a peak. That's true. They have to have a peak on their buildings like this, but that's still not a dome shape. Okay. That's just a peak that lets the the snow and everything fall off of it so it doesn't get overweighted and crush and kill you. Okay, so that's done so that they have less people getting killed in themselves. That's all that's done for. Okay, but they still, domes are restricted for the elites. If you go to most rich people's homes, you're going to find they have a domicile. Okay, they don't have square buildings like we do. They may look square kind of from the outside, but when you actually look at them, you'll see that they have domes there. They're not all square. Okay, rich people don't live in square houses. Okay, so Anna, welcome, by the way. Okay, so let's continue. So that your energy, you have to be aware of your algorithm in where you're up and where you're down and where you fit into that, and whether you're moving up and down, and how that fits into the moon cycle, how that fits into the yearly cycle of the planet that you're living on wherever you are on the earth, your birth sign, all of that. You have to be aware of that. You have to be paying attention to all these things. It's a lot to pay attention to. But here's the thing. You're supposed to be paying attention to that and not sitting and on your phone and playing on your phone and swiping left and swiping right and playing video games. The phone has been designed. That phone was supposed to be designed and was there. Sorry, I had pulled my plug out of the wall. I can plug it back in. Is supposed to be for you to have the opportunity. Literally, everyone's like, I'm poor and I can't do anything about it. Meanwhile, in your hand, you have the entire history of the world and the ability to look up and study everything that is taught on this earth, including how did the Rothschilds get rich? How do the Rothschilds stay rich? You can look all of that up. It's there, but you don't. Why? Because they teach you that the best thing you can do in life is to become a TikTok influencer so that you make all kinds of money. And that's what you're supposed to do I'm going to make millions by being an influencer. And not very many people make millions being influencers. But the ones who do are the ones that everybody thinks that they're going to emulate, and you can't. They don't want you to either. That's why most of those people are selling you a product. They're not telling you how they got that way, because they're selling you some other product. Why? Because that's how you want to get rich quick scheme. I talk about this all. I have my whole life. Come up with a get rich quick scheme and sell it to everybody else. That's how you get rich. You don't come up with a get rich quick scheme and do it yourself. You can, but once you get rich at it, you don't want to tell the world how to do that, because as soon as you do, they become your competition. So you have to stop doing whatever it is that you came up with, because you're going to tell everybody to get rich off of it, and they're all going to start doing it, which means that everyone's going to be doing it. That's why when you sit there and they're like, oh yeah, no one's doing this. Here's a secret to make all kinds of money on the internet that no one knows about yet. And you look and they got like 1 million likes. That means 1 million other people watched it and they like it and they're all trying to do it. Okay, so unless you get on there and you're the very first person who sees that video, everyone is already doing it and you're late. And even if they don't let you see how many people have watched it, because that's what they're going to be doing next, but they can't do that. They need to have you, as the person who creates it, know how many people watch your stuff, because that's what you're trying to get a lot of likes and clicks so you have a lot of money. Okay, so let's continue. Right. So that now Dawn is asking about the energy and the depletion and whether Carla is in good health.
It is to be noted that your prayerful support was helpful, as was this instrument's unflagging determination to accept that which was best in the long run and thus maintain the exercises recommended without undue impatience. It is to be further noted that those things which aid this instrument are in some ways contradictory and require balance. Thus this instrument is aided by rest but also by diversions of an active nature. This makes it more difficult to aid this instrument. However, once this is known, the balancing may be more easily accomplished. 45.3 Questioner, can you tell me if a large percentage of the wanderers here now are those of Ra? Ra, I am Ra. I can. 45.4 Questioner, are they? Ra, I am Ra. A significant portion of 6th density wanderers are those of our social memory complex.
Okay, so that's something that most people miss. That is something that most people miss when they're listening or reading the Law of One. Dawn just asked, session 45, Dawn just asked, are the majority of the wanderers here currently on the earth, this was 1981, are they RA? Are they Ra? I didn't catch that part to fix that. Are they part of the Ra collective? Okay, let me back this up a little bit so you can hear that again. For those of you who are talking amongst yourselves in the crowd, be quiet for a second so you can hear this information. Let me back this up a little bit right here and play this once again. Okay, pay attention to this.
Ra, I am Ra. A significant portion of sixth density wanderers are those of our social memory complex.
A significant portion of six-dimensional, six-density wanderers who are now down on Earth in the third dimension in a body. A significant portion are from the Ra collective. Okay? That's why there is such a large portion of the Earth that is dedicated in some way to get you to recognize the constellation of Orion, and more importantly, the belt of Orion. And those three galaxies that are in the belt of those three lights, stars, whatever you want to think that they are, in that why you have around the Earth so many different pyramidal complexes that appear, and everybody thinks that, oh, well, that means that there's this correlation and they're pointing at that. They're not. But there is all kinds of things around the Earth throughout time that are done in a way to draw your attention to the Orion constellation, and more specifically to the belt of Orion and those three stars on the belt of Orion. All over this Earth, in every continent, and there are so many people that don't know why they're drawn to that. More than just, well, the pyramids in Giza have some correlation, because most people, will say that doesn't have any. So they're not pointing the Orion. They're not. But from the top down, they look just like, and they're positioned exactly the exact same correlation. And all over the world, you have these pyramidal complexes, even step pyramids in the South America and Central America and in the United States that hasn't been identified here yet. That will be. And in China, that has been identified, that the Chinese have buried so that nobody can see it from the sky, from a satellite or an airplane anymore. Since the 40s, when there were pictures taken of them, which I've seen, and on Antarctica, around the whole world. Not just those, other things that are pointing to Orion. The reason for that is that throughout time on this Earth, there have been beings, are beings, I am one of them. A couple of you in this audience currently are as well. You know who you are. Who came from there. Came down here to help because of the damage that we did at a time in Egypt thousands and thousands of years ago that helped get this place stuck. So not just being there, up there, and going, we hope good things for Earth and we're going to stay here. There's actual people who have split off their consciousness and come down here to help, who came from Orion, following the people who came here to take control, who were also from Orion, that we kicked out of there because they were in that sector trying to take it over like they were in this one. As they're trying to take over the entire universe, this entire galaxy, by the way. We're here to stop that and to help repair. And that's going on in many places all over this entire universe, or this galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. Okay. And other things in other parts of the galaxy as well. So it's important for you to know, as my screen stopped scrolling for some reason, that it's important for you to know that most people miss this. I know I've never heard anyone talk about it. And of all the times I've talked about the law of one with people since I read about it in 2017, and no one brings this up. No one talks about that. I'm going to play it one more time and then we'll continue on. Significant portion. Let's back this up.
45.4 questioner. Are they? Ra, I am Ra. A significant portion of sixth density wanderers are those of our social memory complex. Another large portion consists of those who aided those in South America, another portion, those aiding Atlantis. All sixth density and all brother and sister groups due to the unified feeling that as we had been aided by shapes such as the pyramid, so we could aid your peoples. 45.5 questioner.
Okay, so not just that. So we're talking about people in South America who ascended, the Atlanteans, Egyptians, Antarctica. Okay. And what he's not mentioning when he says, whenever you hear someone like Ra 40 years ago talking about Antarctica, what they're talking about is inside the earth most of the time. And this is why I talk about where people talk about the underworld. The underworld was twofold. It was either they were talking about inside of you or they were talking about inside the earth. Right? Thoth talks about the way to God is through the center of the earth. You should look into that. And if you haven't read, I don't know if I have it still sitting here now. I have it covered up now. But I have, or maybe, oh no, it is right here, isn't it? I don't know where it is now. I think it's still here. Yeah, Admiral Byrd's. I read Admiral Byrd's. I've had the book for a couple of years now. Admiral Byrd's diary. And the version that I have, the guy explains other versions and shows you throughout time where other people talk about the exact same thing that Admiral Byrd talked about when he flew into Antarctica and went into the center. And then after that, so if you think he was crazy, he claimed that he flew his aircraft into a hole in Antarctica that went into this entire world that was inside of our planet. After that, after he came back, a few years later, they went to the North Pole and did the same thing, and most people are unaware of that. So people can say, he was just a kook, and he claimed that, and he was crazy. Well, then why is it that he got promoted from colonel to rear admiral? Okay, rear admiral. And when he went and took another military force to the North Pole, they did the same thing, and most people don't know about that. So if he was crazy, why did our government promote him to the highest military rank that you can have in any military service, and then have him do it again in the North Pole? Because they all thought he was nuts and making crazy accusations about people who lived in the center of the planet. If that's the case, and they thought he was crazy, and he was talking about UFOs, and he was talking about aliens, and our government thought he was out of his ever-loving freaking mind, why did they give him another 4,000 or 5,000 troops and an entire armada of ships and aircraft and have him go up in the north and take a look there too? Okay, you need to think about that. You should probably read that book. And then the books that are referenced from many other people throughout time, a couple of Norwegian guys, some Alaskans, Eskimos, and other people around the world who have throughout the last 300 years or more left stories of the exact same adventures of going into the center of the earth and finding people that live there that are far more advanced than we are out here, that has stood the test of time. In fact, I'm starting to believe that the flat earth theory has more to do with the cover-up of that knowledge than it does anything else, because of the peculiar nature, but I'm not going to get into now. I may at some point in the future talk about that and do a show about that and show you these correlations from all these different places that you can read about, some in Admiral Admiral Byrd's diary, because it shows you the diary, which was, I have some questions about the way it was written in the way that they show it in the book. But the knowledge of all these other stories, I'm going to look into more. And I may end up doing, who knows, I may end up writing a book about that at some point, but we'll see, because right now I'm really more focused on spirituality and trying to get that knowledge out to the world and not really start showing the other stuff. Although I talk about that because it has to do with all of this. Okay. So you need to realize that. There's Peter. Welcome, brother. So Peter, last week we didn't really, Operation Fishbowl. Yes. Peter knows what he's talking about. You should look that up, guys. Operation Fishbowl. That's what the Admiral Byrd, the reference from Admiral Byrd. So you guys can look into that and see what that is, right? Follow the money, Cassie said. Absolutely, right? Always follow the money. That's the truth about everything. And you guys should look up Operation Fishbowl, just like Peter just said. And you should look into that kind of information. and then look into the references. So if you read the Admiral Byrd's diary, the book that I have was written by Douglas. Hold on, I gotta put my glasses on. I can't pick it up because my camera's sitting on top of it. Yeah, Douglas. So if you look up, it's called Admiral Richard Byrd's Missing Diary, and the last name of the author is Douglas. There's many versions, and that's why I'm telling you about the one that I have, because I know that one, because I read it, that one has references to all kinds of different stories, including a mention of Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. And what Jules Verne talks about that may have been reference to the possibility that either Jules Verne really did do that or read these books and based a fictional story on it. But there was other books that have come out as well that could have all been based on that. But the fact that Richard Byrd, not once, but twice in the South Pole and the North Pole, had an entire expedition in less than 5 years to both poles and came back and said this stuff and then was told not to talk about it, should tell you something. You should look into that information. Okay. Yeah, follow the money, Cassie says. Follow the money. Always follow the money. Always. Because where the money is and what they're spending money on or what they're appropriating it for is important. All right.
Can you say if any of the three of us are of RA or one of the other groups? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. 45.6 questioner. Can you say which of us are of which group? Ra. I am Ra. No. 45.
See, now there's where the law of organic free will, chaos, and things come into play. Ra can't tell those three who in fact are part of what coalition, because they're not supposed to know yet because of organics, right? But two of them were, in fact, and I think all three of them were. I've never really looked, right? I know Carla was either. I don't know if she knew it or not, because I never really paid it. I never did a lot of study on the group themselves to find out what they said about all that. And of course, Don died by shooting himself. But I believe that they all were, but not in the very beginning, because they replaced Leonard with somebody else, and I forgot his name now, who ended up being the scribe. But that, originally they had Leonard coming in and out. There was a couple of people that came in and out, and eventually it was the core three. But you're going to find, and this is why I bring this up, those of you out there who are drawn to Orion, and specifically the belt of Orion, you're going to find that there is a larger majority of people who do this work throughout all of time that are very visible to the planet through history and invisible to the planet in history, that have been repairing the timelines and continue to do so, and have come from the Raw Collective and are still part of the Raw Collective, far more than anyone ever discusses on this earth. And you can look that up, Google that, whatever you use as a search engine. Look that up. You're not going to find that discussion much. 40 years ago, we were still hidden. It's really only been in the last 5 years that people started coming out and saying that. Most people have delusions of grandeur, and I am Yahweh, I am this deity, I am Thoth, I am Jesus, I am God, everybody has these delusions of grandeur and says they're somebody. And Raw talked about that 2 sessions ago, where all of those records are there, and when you tap into them, you believe you are that, because you're not seeing it as a separate person. You're watching it as if it's you. And you feel and smell and taste everything as if you're that person. That doesn't necessarily mean you were that person. Okay, it's just as likely that you weren't, but it is also just as likely that you were. So whether or not you were actually that soul, and then when you go on a high enough level, you are anyways, because we all are one, and we all are actually all of that. When you go up high enough, you become everything. So in some sense, you are, and everyone is. It's confusing down here to try and explain that to people, because then people get mad and go, oh, you're just ego triggered because you're not, God. but no, I am, you are, we all are, everything is. There is nothing that is not the creator of the universe. Nothing. That's the name in itself says that, creator of the universe. Okay, that means that everything is of the creator. Everything. There is nothing that is not. Okay, just by its very nature, creator of the universe suggests the all. Let's continue.
Point 7 Questioner. Are all of us of one of the groups that you mentioned? Ra. I am Ra. We shall go to the limits of our attempts to refrain from infringement. 2 are a 6th density origin, water truck engine noise in background. 1 a 5th density harvestable to 6th, but choosing to truck honk return as a wanderer due to a loving association between teacher and student. Thus you 3 honk honk form a greatly cohesive group. 45.8 Questioner. Can you explain the right and left ear tone and what I call touch contact that I continually get? Ra. I am Ra. Doorbell in background. This has been covered previously. Please ask for specific further details. Truck engine turn.
Love that. Do you hear the things that are being recorded that are on the honk honk, doorbell in the background, truck engine?
Turned off. 45.9 Questioner. I get what I consider to be a tickling in my right and my left ear at different times. Is this any different as far as meaning goes as the tone I get in my right and left ear? Ra. I am Ra. No. 45.10
Totally
Questioner.
different.
Why is
Yep.
the left ear of the service to self-contact and the right service to others? Ra. I am Ra. The nature of your physical vehicle is that there is a magnetic field, positive and negative in complex patterns about the shells of your vehicle. The left portion of the head region of most entities is, upon the time/space continuum level, of a negative polarity. 45.11 Questioner. Can you tell me the purpose or philosophy behind the 4th dash, 5th dash, and 6th density positive bang outside and negative social memory complexes? Loud rapping at the door. Ra. I am Ra. Bang outside. The basic purpose loud rapping of a social memory complex is that of evolution. Beyond a certain point, the evolution of spirit is quite dependent upon the understanding of self and other self as creator. This constitutes the basis for social complexes. When brought to maturity, they become social memory complexes. The 4th density and 6th density find these quite necessary. The 5th positive uses social memory more rapping in attaining wisdom, though this is done individually. In 5th negative, much is done without aid of others.
Sorry, I'm just amused by the banging, rapping, and tapping, and this is all stuff that's going on outside. Sounds like construction's going on while they're recording. Okay, so you have to realize that the reason that it's set up this way, left side, if you can see me on the screen, this is my left hand on my left side, left hand on my right side, left side negative, right side positive, and that it's universal that way. Not everywhere, some places it's different. But for the most part, for 100% here on this planet. And it's done that way so it's consistent. Do you understand? So throughout most of the universe, most of this, all of this galaxy and most of the universe, it is either one side or the other, one way or the other, set up that way. And when you're in that region and from that region of the universe, then those polarities are sound. And they're set up that way so that it's constant, so that people learn and can discern the difference between negative and positive information, negative and positive influx of energy and output, so that it becomes part of a social memory complex or a social complex, because negative people will tend to move towards negative and positive people move towards positive. And so you have to discern, be able to discern the difference. So you're supposed to, the first step of avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. So you're supposed to become aware of, this is all the negative side and I know that and I'm drawn to it. This is all the positive side, I know that and I'm drawn to it, so that you know where to look. And that's instinctive until it becomes a part of your awareness. And when it becomes part of your awareness, then you have the choice to decide. And then once you do that, it becomes a social complex, and eventually a social memory complex, and eventually a soul complex. as you move up on either side, being in service to self or in service to others. Okay. So it stays consistent. It's not flip-flopping. It's not only people do that and try to pretend and walk the line and pretend I'm not really evil because I'm doing all this good stuff. But eventually, when people realize those and that the lines are actually drawn, those people can't hide anymore. Do you see? They try to walk that line and pretend, look, I'm over here. No, I'm over there. Look, I'm really over here. No, I'm not. I'm sorry, not sorry. But what happens is when you realize the polarization and you're aware of it 100% and know that what it is, that's the portion of your evolution where you go, these news agencies are just lying to us all. These politicians aren't even trying to hide it anymore. They're just lying blatantly. They've always done that. You were just never aware of it until you are. You can't ever unsee it. You can't go back and forget about it when you see that. It's a seminal point. It's a point of no return. Once you see them and you're that far awake, you can never unsee it. So you always know when they're lying because you can see it and you go, that person's lying. And people go, how do you know that? I'm telling you, I'm a lie detector. I know that they're lying right there. They're full of crap. And then other people are like, you're full of it. You don't know what you're talking about because they can't sense it yet. Okay. And so therefore they don't believe you can because they can't. And their ego will tell them there's no way that person can because I'm better than that person. And there's no way that they can do it. And that's usually how they say things to you. You can, you have to listen for that. You do that? When did you get that? I remember when I was younger, my sister said something like that to me, one of my sisters. How come you? Right? And so whenever someone says that, they're not aware that they're saying that in a condescending way when they say it to you. But it comes out. It's a Freudian slip. It comes out. But you do that? It means that they literally didn't think that you could do that. I remember when I was in my early 20s, back then you could smoke in restaurants here in the United States. And I went out with a bunch of coworkers for dinner after I was working at a movie theater. And so after the latest show, when we closed the theater, it was after midnight, we all decided to go out. And I lit a cigarette and I started smoking. And this girl who worked with us was sitting on the other side of the table. She looked at me and went, "You smoke? You smoke?" And I looked at her and I went, "Yeah, I don't actually know what I said to her was no." As I said, so she goes, "You smoke?" And I went, "No." And I'm holding a cigarette in my hand and the smoke is wafting up. And I take a drag off the cigarette and I just looked at her and everybody laughed at that. But that, you see, in her mind, she saw me as less than, not as cool as her, less than, not as popular as her, and in no way thought that I would be a type of person who would smoke a cigarette. So when she saw me smoking, she was like, "You smoke?" Right? So she didn't realize that that's how she said it. And that's what they do. And they don't realize it's a Freudian slip. They don't realize that and when someone talks to you like that, that's when you see, if you're paying attention, they think they're more superior than you in every way. And they don't believe that you are capable of whatever it is that you're seeing you do. Right? I remember this guy that was a friend of my boss's, a contractor, and a friend of mine won a scratch off $100,000 scratcher. And when I said, "Hey," and he knew them, "Hey, did you hear that these guys won $100,000? He said, "I don't believe it. It's not true. Didn't happen." More than one person that I knew, my adopted brother, right? He's not really adopted, but I've known him since he was a friend of the family. And I knew him since I was like 10 or 9. I was really young, maybe even 8. So I always call him as like my older brother. He said the same thing. "I don't believe it." I'm like, it doesn't matter whether you believe it. They won the money. Nope. No, they didn't. Because that person was like, there's no way they would win the money before me. So I don't believe they won any money. But I saw the check and they have all kinds of money and they bought a brand new car and they have all this money. Nope. Not true. They refused. Their ego wouldn't allow them to do that. Okay. So that's the choice you become aware of. The knowledge is knowing those things. And you can never go back once you learn it. You can't unlearn it. So that's the polarity. And it has to be set up so that it's consistent for you to have the opportunity to ascend to the realization that it is. And then once you start to balance yourself and start becoming aware of yourself, you start realizing you're having this information that comes in and out. And if you're using psychic abilities, you already know that, because you know that all the positive energy and information comes from the right side. Your guides, when you're talking to the other side, someone who is dead, and they're coming through to other people, it all comes from this side, comes from the right side. And all negative energy comes in from the left. So if you hear ringing in the ears, that was part of my training. My father was teaching me that when I was, I don't know, I think it started when I was 8 or 9. My father was teaching me the communication that you don't see and hear about. That's why I loved in that television series. I can't think of Tom Hardy and his father did the TV series, and it was set in the like 1700s here in the United States and England. And Tom Hardy was the star, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but he was able to communicate to his father on the full moon by looking up at the moon, and psychically he was in Africa and his father was in the United States and England, going back and forth. So he knew everything that happened to his father, and he knew that he was murdered and by who, and he showed up. It was they were supposed to do the second season or the third season of it, and COVID hit, and then they've never done it. It's too bad. I'm going to try and harp on them to get it out, because it was a great TV series. It was really dark, but it was a great TV series. And like I said, Tom Hardy, the actor, and his father wrote it. And they were producers and directors, and he starred in it. And it was a great television show. It was very popular, really dark. I wish they would go back to doing that. They probably have moved on since, but COVID hit and it put everything on hold. And a lot of television shows never came back after COVID. And then the writer's strike happened, and those people who were writing for shows, not that show, because that was the two of them that did it. But then that is causing a lot of issues as well. Right. I know, Cassie, love Tom Hardy. Love Tom Hardy. Great actor. Everything he's ever done. And for those of you who don't know who he is, if you saw the Batman movies, he played Bane. You never saw his face. How many people would do that? Edward Norton and Tom Hardy are the only people that have played a starring role in a movie. And Leonardo DiCaprio, but he played himself and another twin. The Man in the Iron Mask. So he was also on screen, but Ed Norton was in the Kingdom of Heaven, and he played the king, who was a leper who had a mask on. You never saw Edward Norton's face ever in the entire movie. And Edward Norton played that part, and most people don't know about it. Tom Hardy in the Batman movie played Bane and had a mask over his mouth, over his face. You never saw Tom Hardy's face ever, and he still played those parts. And people still realize that it was those guys. It takes a special actor to play a part where they're never going to have their face on camera and do it. Most don't want to do it. Most things are filmed so that you know who the actor is. If they're wearing armor, they flip up their helmet or take it off so you see their face always, so you know who that actor is. Because back in time, people knew by the shape, because they're what they had painted on their armor or on the helmet, depending on what they had as a helmet, was what people knew who those people were. Just like all the tartans for those who wear kilts, the Scottish, English, Irish, and Welsh that wear kilts. The tartan itself, the pattern and the color coordination, tells the history of the name. Native Americans used to walk around with beads. They either wore them as a choker around their neck, or they would hold on to them. If you saw the last of the Mohicans, when he walked in to talk to the I think it was an Algonquin king, don't quote me, when he went to go and talk to the chieftain about Mogwai, and that Mogwai was working with the French, selling out all of the Native Americans, he showed up with this beads and held him in his hand, and for everybody to see, even though they were hitting him in the head and trying him and doing what they were doing, which was all part of a ceremony. And that those beads told who his family was and his lineage. That if you didn't read the book, you'd have no idea what that meant. He's just walking up with these beads in his hand. And why would he be doing that? Are they prayer beads? So they don't tell you that in the movie, what was going on. These things throughout time told who people were. And now none of that does. Your face is all that is important these days, not what you wear, not what you say. It's your face. And that's the selling point. It's either that or depending on what you're in. So if you're an actor, it's your face. That's why you don't see a lot of actors playing parts where you don't get to see their face. They always have to make sure they show the face of the actor so you know who it is, because most people only identify people by their face these days. All the rest of that's been taken away from you. Perfect example of that is if you want to fool somebody, all you have to do is change your height slightly. This is part of spycraft. Change your clothing from what you normally don't wear. I did this, walked in my own store. I was the manager of a store. I came in on my day off and I was wearing a ball cap, wasn't wearing anything that I ever wear when I'm in the store, because I would always wear the same color slacks, khaki slacks, and I would always wear a polo shirt that was company polo shirt. And I came in wearing blue jeans, a t-shirt, a ball cap, and my sunglasses. I walked in and no one even knew that it was me. Took my sunglasses off when I got in. No one realized that it was me. I walked up to my own employees and said, hi. And they said, are you fine? Everything okay, sir? Yes, I am. Thank you. And they didn't even know it was me. Went into my office and someone saw me in my office from behind and quick ran and told the assistant manager, there's some dude in Leo's office. I don't know what the hell's going on. And he runs over and they're like going to call the cops because he saw me from behind and I'm dressed in regular clothes. They're going to call the police on me because they thought how did this guy get in the office? They opened up the door. Excuse me, sir. And I turned around and my assistant manager went, oh my God, you scared me. I was trying to figure out who this guy was and how he got into your office. Okay. Because they didn't see my face. That is what they do now. It's face recognition. That's why I like that football players, most people don't know what a lot of the football players look like because they have all those face masks on. And a lot of them put on war paint. And when you see them when they're not, that's why they have to make sure that when they do commercials, they have their jersey on and they tell you on the screen who that is. Because most people don't know from baseball and football and hockey players because they all wear masks to protect their face so they don't get damaged. So those guys are rough to know who they are. Race car drivers are because they wear helmets and you can't see them. They have to show you who the person is when they're not wearing that garb because otherwise you'd never identify them. Because all of our stuff is not by that. People used to watch the Roman Colosseum when a gladiator came out because of how he was dressed and the armor he was wearing and the way he moved, everybody knew who it was. Perfect example, and then we'll get back to Raw. Perfect example of this was Troy. Okay. If you've ever read the stories from the Trojan Wars, literally, what was his name? Achilles' nephew. I can't think of his name right this second. He was forbidden to go into the battle by Achilles because Achilles didn't want him to die and didn't want to worry about him and wanted to be able to fight without worrying about him. So Achilles decided he wasn't going to go to battle because he was mad at Agamemnon. So his nephew put on all of his armor and was trained by him and kind of resembled him because it was his nephew. So he looked just like him, not enough but close enough. And he went out and got into the battlefield and Hector ended up killing him. Hector being the Trojan hero, ended up killing him thinking he killed Achilles. The whole battle stopped when he killed him. And then they realized that it was not Achilles, it was his nephew. And that changed the entire face of the war. But it was because of his armor and the way he moved, everyone thought he was Achilles because that's how people were identified, was by the way they moved in their armor and the way they were built. Everyone knew who they were. Some people are still geared that way when they see people. They see how they're built, how they move. I do that, not just their face. You see? So putting on a disguise fools most people. If they're clean shaven, they put on a beard and a mustache and put on a ball cap, people will look right at them and not know who they are. Changing something slightly because that's not what you're trained to look for anymore. You're trained to only see the face. Do you see? There's a guy on television they show a picture of him and his teeth are all messed up and he got his teeth fixed. And there's a picture of him next to it with his teeth fixed. And he actually said, people didn't recognize me anymore once I got my teeth fixed. Just because he had his teeth fixed, when he said hi to people he worked with for 10, 15, 20 years, they didn't know who he was. because all they saw before was his teeth. So when he showed up with perfect teeth, same person who they've seen every day for 20 years, hi, Bob, how you doing? Hi. They didn't know who he was anymore. That subtle of a change. The point of all of this is that's a parable that those things prior to a certain time period were how everyone had to learn, because nobody made sure that they showed you their face. If there were knights in armor, you had to see the type of armor, the color of the armor, and whether their shield. That's why shields always had personal pictures on them, right? For individuals who wanted everyone to know who they were, or they had a banner, a flag, or the helmet. People don't realize that the knights would have, like, somebody would have a bird face, another one would have a dog face, another one would have a pig face, a bear face, and they would have the helmet made that way purposefully, so that you, or with wings or with ears or whatever, so that you knew who that person was, that distinguished them from other people and the way they moved. So you knew the Black Knight was the Black Knight because he wore all dark armor. All that's gone away, and they've taken all of that away from everyone. And our military is identically dressed, identical in stature, no hair, no facial hair. All of that is being done by negative people so that you can't see anything besides superficial. The reason that that's done, and now you'll see why I went down this road. The reason that's done is, again, they're taking away all of these subtle things that are differences, that are tells, so that you're not paying attention to anything but this. Okay, the face, that's it. You're not paying attention to anything else. Why would you then notice, and how would you notice, because it's not being taught to you, negative and positive energy coming into your own personal space and mind? They don't want you knowing any of that. They've taken it all away from you. Everything, anything and everything that in any way can help you to ascend has been removed, including perception of people at a distance, perception of people when they're hiding in plain sight right in front of you. It's so easy. I do that. And even now, I still have this habit. I can walk up on somebody and they won't hear me. And they turn around and go, "You're far too large of a man to be that quiet." It's not really that hard. All I have to do is change something slightly about myself if you're looking for me. If you're not, all I have to do is not allow you to sense me. Don't let your eyes see me. Okay? And don't let your ears hear me. That's all I have to do. All I have to do is that. And if I'm aware, and this is where the first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. Okay? I'm playing World of Warcraft. Here's another example. Playing World of Warcraft. This is a computer game. This is how acute my senses are. I'm on a computer game playing against other humans, and I'm playing as a quest it's a daily quest where I'm player versus player, have that feature on, and I have to do that. So I'm in a battleground that is contested, and if another player from the other faction comes into play there, even though I'm doing a quest that is not just attacking other humans, I'm attacking non-player characters, we can still get into combat. While I was in there, I do these every single day. While I was in there the day before yesterday, I was there, something said to me that in the back of my mind, all of a sudden I was thinking, there might be another human that might sneak up on me. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? I'm high enough level to where it won't be so bad if they do. I didn't pay attention. And when I did, I thought, why did I just think that? Normally, I would immediately react to that. I didn't. A half second later, someone landed behind me, dismounted, and attacked me. Because I hesitated for a full second in my own thought process of, I'm being stalked, even though I'm not physically there and physically have someone my instincts, and I've done this for probably 15 days in a row. One time I went, I think somebody is possible that somebody could sneak up on me. A second and a half later, I got attacked because I didn't react when I thought about it and assumed that I was going to be attacked and checked behind me or moved so that you couldn't be behind me, because that's the only place you can't see is behind you. I didn't react and I didn't look. I was attacked, and because I was fighting a non-player character, now I was fighting two people, one of which is just going to stand and bash on me because it's a non-player computer character, and the other is a human who is stalking me, who is going to fight like another human. So I had to avert my attention, but I'm also being attacked now by two people, and I have a disadvantage because I was jumped from behind. So of course I was killed. And I turned and looked at the person before I left my body, because you leave your body jettisoned and you become a spirit, and then you run back to your body and resurrect. I looked at the person to see if the person was going to camp me, and I wanted to know who it was. Okay. The person killed me, ran away from me. I looked at the person, memorized their face, the character, memorized their name. They mounted up and flew off. I came back, checked the area before I resurrected, checked the area. The person was no longer there around. I was going to hunt the person down, but they took off, and I knew that there was a base not too far away, because both the human and the Alliance and the Horde are not too far away. So he left. Okay. But that was my instinct. Even in a video game, I have no idea where on the planet that human was. But because that human was thinking about it, I got the spider sense. That person could be in the same city as me, or could be in China, not China, but could be all the way across the world in another place, playing that video game at the same time. The server that I was on, that I play on, is the East Coast United States server, but there are people from around the world that play that on that server. It used to be that it was always local, and I would have to be on a California server because everybody would be from California. So to time everything out, you want to be on the same time zone. Now it doesn't matter. People play from around the world. So I have no idea where that person was on the planet. But my point is, I instinctively knew about it and didn't look. Usually when I get that spider sense, I immediately turn the camera and look up and look around to see if somebody's about to stalk me, and then I can adjust to it. I didn't do that. The point of that is, and the example of that is, that when you become aware of these things and have the knowledge, and someone teaches you this, things become easily for you to sense. And that's why they're taking it all from you, and have taken it from you, so that you can't know that stuff. That's why they don't teach you that. And most people, they don't want, most people don't want to know about spycraft. They don't want to know about war. So you don't, and most people who are in that don't want you to know about it either. Not because they want to have the advantage over you, because they don't want you to have to know what they have to know and have to go through. And it's okay. But when it comes to the reality about reality, there are certain things that have been taken from you, me, and everyone else, that is right in front of your face, that you are unaware of, that they are aware of and use to their advantage daily, second by second, minute by minute, day by day, hour by hour, month by month, and year by year, constantly to their advantage, to keep themselves in that 1% and in charge and in power worldwide. And if you were aware of it, you would be able to stop them, because they can't stop you from seeing it unless they don't let you know it's there. Okay. And this is what Ra is warning about. And this is what most of us are trying to teach you around the world. What's been taken from you, why, and to whose advantage is it become, without you knowing that there is an advantage against you. Because you're born into it, your parents were born into it, their parents were born into it. From the second they became aware of the knowledge, they have been consistently masking that knowledge from everyone worldwide, and taking away more and more knowledge worldwide every time they can. Still there for you to see, because they have to leave it there, but they don't let you become aware of it by not telling you about it. And it's just there for you to find if you look and if you find it. There are some of us on this earth that are here to show you those things, to help you and assist you. and guide you to find those things, where to look, what to look for, where to learn, what to learn, and how to do that. Okay. And you have to realize, right? Thank you, Cassie. You have to realize that there's millions, if not billions of us that are here that came here to help you. Some of us, because we screwed things up, helped screw things up worse than they already were. Okay. You have to realize that, but not many people are talking about that. Paulie, welcome. Anybody who happened to talk in the chat while I was talking and I didn't say hi, I apologize for that, because if I don't have my glasses on, I don't always see everything that's being said there. Okay. Yes, Rick, knowledge is power. Yes, absolutely. Questioning is power. Question everything, always, including me. This is why I always say it. If you guys have known me long enough, if you will listen to my show or you've talked to me personally, you know that I always say, don't believe me. Don't believe anything anyone ever says to you. Go and look it up for yourself. Learn to read, ask questions, question everything, always. So when I say something to people, I say, prove me wrong. Look it up. Don't believe me and look it up for yourself, because when you start asking questions, the second you start asking questions is the beginning of breaking the matrix's control over you. The second you start thinking for yourself, the second you start asking, wait a minute, why does God need a starship? Captain James T. Kirk asked that question. Almost died for asking that question. It was in a movie. You should look that up. It was one of the movies, the one where Spock, you find out Spock has a brother. The second you start asking questions, you're going to get nothing but opposition, because they don't want you asking questions. They don't want you looking things up. That's why if you go back in time to whenever that was, 5,000 years ago, whenever Socrates was alive, before they made him kill himself, because he said, I don't believe the earth is flat. I think it's round. That's it. Drink this poison and die. And he did. But prior to it, I can't believe that he just drank it. You know, I guess there was some pride involved in that, and he wanted to prove to the world. But then again, the reason that everybody knows his name still is because he was, okay, fine, I'm going to do this and people are going to remember me forever. But he's famous. You can look this up. He's famous for saying, I can't make you believe anything. The only thing I can do is get you to start thinking for yourself. Okay? That's the truth. I can't tell you anything, because if you're not willing to believe it, then you won't. If you're not ready to believe it, then you won't. So I am not thinking that I have a knowledge that you guys out there don't have, and that you have to, I'm the know-all, the end-all, the be-all. I'm the one who has all the information, and you just have to talk to me. That's not. Those people who talk like that they're all ego. I'm trying to get you to think for yourself and ask questions. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. So I'm trying to pose as much information and knowledge to you that will help you, or at least tantalize you, or piss you off enough to where you'll go, I don't believe you, man. I think you're crazy. Good. Because if you don't believe me, you're either just going to turn me off and go, that guy doesn't know anything, and then not learn anything and not ascend and not ask any questions, or you're going to go, you know what? I don't think he knows what he's talking about, and I'm going to look it up. I want you to look it up, because I want you to start asking questions and question everything that everybody says. Tom Hardy's TV show, Taboo. Yes, Denise, thank you. Taboo. Also, can you answer Cassie's question about the difference in the ears? Now, I didn't see her question. Let me back up and find it. Oh, and now I see where she said, I had a question. Okay, let me back up. See, if I don't have my glasses on, I don't see that. All right, where's your question? Restate your question, please, Cassie, because now I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I don't see it. Please just restate your question for me. Yeah, because I don't know how far back your question was. So please re-ask it again. I'll wait for you, right? Yeah, Cassie, please. I hope you're still here. Please ask the question again, because I can't find it. And I'm not sure where. I'll scroll up, but if you take less time if you just re-ask it for me, because I don't know how far back it was when you were asking the question. Yeah, I don't know how far back it was. Just please re-ask it for me, and I'll answer it. All right, I'll wait. Hopefully she's still here. Somebody, if Cassie jumped out, please have her come back in. So what does frequencies mean? Cody's asking. Frequencies, if you're asking me that, frequencies, um, the frequencies are different. Okay, wait, Cassie's got that. So the frequencies are the different levels of just like a radio frequency. So frequencies are literally different channels of sound or vibration or whatever. So Cassie said, when hearing ringing in the ears, could you please explain what the different tones mean, pitch, high and low? Yes. Okay, that's actually a really good question. Individually, okay, there's a broad range of the higher resonance and the lower resonance in the frequencies in the tones that you hear. First of all, whether it's left or right, 100%. If it's on your left side and you're hearing in your left side, left ear, it's a negative energy. If it's on the right side, it's a positive. The tone, whether it's because sometimes you hear it like it's almost like it's a muffled sound, and other times it's a high pitch. Those are the frequency is the level of emotion that is attached to whatever it is that's coming in. But you will find, this is actually a great question. This took me a lot to figure out when I was little, and my father trained me for years on this. You will find, and this is what I tell people, when you hear a tone, whatever the side the tone is on, whatever it is, if you instinctively, you'll kind of have an idea of who or what the tone is and how you can discern. If you hear a tone, say it's coming from the right side, and there's a tone that's in your ear, and you recognize, I've had that tone before. If you run through in your mind, think to yourself, who or what do I think that is? And then you start going over people that you know. Bring up their face, think about them. If it's a person and you think, was that mom? And then when you think that, it stops, it was mom. Now you have identified what that tone is attached to. Now you have to figure out what it meant. Why was mom thinking about me? Mom was just thinking about me. Is mom going to call? Should I contact mom? And you'll find that if you do that, call mom. Hi, mom, I was just thinking about you. That's weird. I was just talking about you. You start to find out what the tones mean. When you're getting information coming from your higher self, it's a specific signature. This is why I liked that Cody said, what do the frequencies mean? Because each frequency is like a fingerprint. Each frequency of the tone, you have to become aware of what these tones are and who they're attached to or what they're attached to. Is it a disembodied spirit of somebody who's trying to get my attention because I happen to be in the room with their grandchild and they're trying to give me a message? Is it my higher self? Is it a guide? Is it someone else that I know that has psychic abilities that I was unaware of? Maybe they're unaware of. My father would always, he'd be watching TV or whatever, and he'd be sitting there and he would always say, one of us, go and answer the phone, it's your mom. And it wasn't like he knew, because we would even ring, go answer the telephone, it'd be mom. Calling, I'm late from leaving work, or I'm going to stop and get something at the store. Do you need anything? He knew that ahead of time. He's go answer the phone, it's your grandmother. He knew that my father could tell because he understood what was happening, and he knew, call so-and-so. He knew this, and he also was teaching me how to communicate with people who knew this and how you can communicate with them, and they'll hear the ringing. And if they're aware of it and they've had the same training, they'll know that you're trying to communicate with them. And then that opens, it's like a ringing of a phone. You're dialing them up. And if they're perceiving that, they can answer, and you can psychically have communications. Okay? But the other person has to be aware of it and have the same training to be able to communicate. And this is where I was referring to when I was talking about Tom Hardy, and that he and his father put that into the storyline in Taboo, where his character was able to communicate with his father from Africa, and his father was in America. And he was in Africa, and he knew that his father was assassinated and had a good idea of who. But you don't know this until things start going in the show. So if you've never watched the show, I'm kind of giving you spoiler alerts there. But I like that they wrote that into the script and even put it into a pagan ideology where the mother was considered a witch. His mom was considered a witch, okay? And that she had black magic, according to anybody that was Christian. So they were using this whole ideology of Druidism and paganism written into the script that was taking place in the 1700s, which was really cool, which is definitely, I knew when I saw it, I was like, that's a Druid thing. It's taught. If you're a Druid, you're taught this. Okay. Some Wiccans know about it as well. Some of the older, that's why the traditional traditions in the pagan community are important when they say what lineage is your teachings, because to those people who are Puritans, they know what you've been taught. So having like the 21 or 18 lessons of Merlin being taught, which is very rare. I don't think you can find one of those. They're both very rare, and one is almost impossible to find on the earth now. The other one is still almost impossible as well. Those books are hard to find. 40 years ago, I had one. I had both, 18 and 21 lessons of Merlin. Okay, so the tone, depending on the frequency, depending on whether it's left side or right side of your ear, and you have doctors today now telling you that if you're hearing a tone in your ear, it's because you have high blood pressure. That's the only reason you're hearing a tone is because you have high blood pressure. So you need to take medication. That's what they're told to teach you. First, I would check to make sure you don't just have high blood pressure. But there's a very good possibility that that's not what's going on. There's more of a 90% possibility that that's not what's going on, that you don't have tones in your ears because you have damage done to your eardrum or you have high blood pressure. Those are about a 5% chance a piece each. The other 90% is psychic abilities, communication at a distance, instantaneously over space and time, especially distance. So if you're taught this, just like any other ability, and you start to do it and you trust yourself, you're able to communicate with other people who are also aware of this and doing that. So the first part is, again, first step in avoiding a trap, or the first step in knowing of its existence, is to the recognition that the tones, first of all, one is negative energy and information coming in the left side, and one is positive. Beyond that, the frequency are fingerprints. They are literally a communication from a specific being, whether it's your higher self, whether it's your guide, or specifically one of your guides if you have many, whether it is a disembodied spirit who's trying to get a contact to someone else, or whether it's another human being who is unaware that they have psychic abilities, or someone that, because when you become comfortable with people or related to them, you then have more of a possibility of having psychic communications with them. Someone who's been with a partner for a long time, you guys start getting so in sync, you start answering each other's sentences, finishing each other's sentences, because you're becoming more in tune with each other, opening up. You don't know it, but you're trusting each other, and you're sharing a consciousness in a way that is becoming a hive mind complex. You become a we, not a me and us. You become a we. So if you're married to somebody for a long time and you're happy in that marriage, you're going to be a we. You're not going to say I and me. You're going to say we more than you say I and me. And you're going to say, when someone says, hey, do you want to come for dinner? I have to check with my spouse. You don't just say yes. Oh yeah, we'll be there, and not tell them, oh, by the way, I made plans, unless that's the dynamic that you have in your relationship, which means that it's all one-sided, and you're either in control or you're not in control, and they are. If you have a complete 50-50 in your relationship, you will never commit to anything without checking with that other person, because you respect them enough and trust them enough. Do you see? So it's always we. Let me check and see if and I'll get back to you. And if somebody gets mad at you, oh, come on, you have to check in with your wife, you have to check in with your husband. Yeah, the reason that you're single is because you don't. Okay. And if you're not, then that's because you're going, shut up, bitch, get back in the kitchen. You know what I mean? And you're the one that's dominating them because your ego. or you're being dominated by them and you're afraid of them and they've gotten you that way. So if you're in a relationship with somebody, if you work with someone or you're on a team, sports team, in the military, you guys get cohesive as a team. You start knowing what the other person is going to think. Basketball is beautiful for that because it's like hockey is one of the fastest paced sports on the face of the earth. And when you see a basketball team that is cohesive and they work together as a machine, you'll see guys making passes on the fly running. They just know that person is there and they won't even look, and they'll throw the ball and the guy will be right there to catch the ball, and they'll do that. Looks, things that you practice, you know that if you're moving a certain way, that means that I'm going to give you a give and go. Football players do that with the quarterback, gets used to the receivers, and when they're cohesive, they become champions because they're all not about themselves and they're about the cohesiveness, and they start becoming one unit. On those levels of competition, those people are psychically in tune with one another because they need to be, and they know it, they're aware of it, they trust each other, and they're doing it because of the greater good of we want to win a championship. And the only way that we're going to do this is we all have to be selfless and do that. So in the sports arena, and there's an example of that cohesiveness. And then in combat, you hear these guys who've ever been in combat, and they're like, it's a special bond that you have because you are relying on that person to save your life, and you have to then work together. And so psychically, you become more in tune to each other, and you love each other in a way that you don't love strangers because you don't trust a stranger with your life. These are examples in a competition or a war setting of the exact same attunement. They don't realize that they're communicating on a psychic level, and they're opening up to each other. They just go, yeah, no, man, we know each other because we have this bond because they're low vibration. But to do that, they have to achieve that. Okay, so the frequency is a fingerprint or footprint or an individual's pattern that you're hearing, and you have to figure out which of those are. Psychics, good psychics will tell you there's certain things that they see from the other side that give them a certain information. Like, for instance, the Long Island medium, she always said that seeing a woman in an apron with a rolling pin means baking to her. So the other side gives her that metaphor for someone who bakes. And they know that because that's how they could, just like Ra goes into Dawn's head and knows how to communicate with Dawn so that Dawn fully understands what Ra's trying to say, or as best that they can. That's why this information is being spoken like as if Ra is a nuclear physicist, because Dawn is. And that's why someone like myself, who was going to be a nuclear physicist, is able to translate to you into English what Ra is talking about. So the frequency is a fingerprint or a certain communication. You have to figure out who that is attached to. How to do that is going through in your mind when you hear the tone. The tone will not stop until you land on who that is. And then the tone will quit. Now you know that person was talking about you or thinking about you or trying to send you information. And then you have to figure out, what does the tone mean that is individual, and do I get the same tone or a different tone level frequency from the same person? And what do those mean? Is one danger? Is the other one, I'm just talking about you? Is, you know what I mean? You start to learn those when you pay attention to them. So you have to pay attention when you hear them, do the work internally, and then make a mental note so that the next time you're able to do that. The same thing goes with goosebumps. When you have goosebumps, and whether they're full, whether they start at the base of your neck and go down your spine, or they come up your spine, or they go all across your arms or down your arms, or just one side, just one arm, those are the same. When it comes to that, if you have that ability, which I have, if you have that ability, you become aware, you have to become aware of, where did the chills start? Was it in my ear? Was it in the back of my head? Was it in my toe? Was it in my finger? Was it down my spine? Where did the chill go? And you hear people saying the chill ran down his spine or ran up his spine. That's usually because that kind of chill that goes right up your or down your spine is usually the fear factor that is pretty much universal. And that's why you hear that even in the story of the 300, where there was a chill that ran down Xerxes' spine when he realized that Leonidas almost killed him. So he was a human, and he realized that he was a human and that they knew about it, and that he wasn't, in fact, a god. And that chill was, oh no, Leonidas doesn't see me as a god. Therefore, he's trying to kill me. Okay, so that's an example. So the same thing goes for the tones in the ears as the goosebumps when you get them. If you're the person who gets goosebumps when you ask questions of your higher self, sometimes I can do that. It's another ability set that everyone has as a human because of the body that we have and the way it's designed and its harmonics. There are far more communicative, psychic things that this body does to assist us than is ever being taught. And all of this is going to go into my book because it was taboo. That's why I loved the whole show Taboo and what that meant. Think about if you've seen the show, what does the name Taboo have to do with the show? Unless the entire theme of the show has to do with magic and druidism and paganism. Otherwise, there's nothing about the show that's taboo. That's why I liked that show, and I loved that Tom Hardy and his father wrote it the way they wrote it, because the name and what was happening and the characters that were going up against the East India Trading Company and the royals and the rich aristocrats, those people were living in the flesh and were all 3D and were business just like they are now. And they were going up against someone who was using all of nature and abilities and magic and psychic abilities against them. And they had no point of reference other than it must be the devil and he's evil. And he knew that too and was using that to his advantage. They're afraid, like children afraid of the dark, of me. Right? I know Cass said, I love Taboo. Me too. Love that. I hope they do. I'm going to try and contact Tom Hardy again. Send the information over going, when are you guys going to make the next episodes? Come on, man. We're dying for it over here. Because I would love for that to come back out. It was supposed to be out in 2022. COVID hit and it just disappeared. And here we are, 2024. Okay. Originally, they were going to come out sooner, and then they said 2022, and then COVID hit in 2019, 2020. And then I've never heard anything more. So I'm going to have to try and put it out there to the universe again and find out if they're going to make some more of that, because what they had planned was pretty badass from what I understood. Not that I know Tom Hardy or his father, because I don't. I wish I did, because Tom Hardy's badass. I wish I could say, I know that guy, man. He's cool, because he is a badass. Anybody who can play, multiple characters like he's done, the type of characters that he's played, including, playing the superhero character, Venom. He played Venom. Well, that was pretty badass too. Okay. So the frequency, I hope I've wrung that out enough. The frequencies are footprints or signatures of information from some sort of individual being, and a positive or negative information. And then you have to go from there to the subcategory of what does it mean. And then when you start to get into tune to that, you will automatically start doing it. You'll hear a tone and you go, huh. And you'll literally just start going like a computer. You'll run through everybody that you know that you think it might be at first. And then literally it'll just go and be done the second you think of a person. And then test it. Text that person or call that person or whatever and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. You don't have to say, hey, I know you were thinking about me, because that'll freak them out. And they're like, what? And they'll start to try and block you, right? Unless they're honest. Go, contact them and go, hey, what are you doing? And then a lot of times you'll find out they'll go, if it's someone that you know that trust, they'll go, wow, that's weird. I was just thinking about you. You don't have to then say, yeah, I know, because that freaks people out if they're not ready for it. If you think they're ready for it and you can say that to them and you're not ego and of course, because I'm psychic and I know that, and you have to feel that you have to do that, But if it is somebody that you know would be susceptible to knowing this and acceptable of it, then you can go, yeah, were you aware that you had that ability? No, I wasn't. Well, when you were thinking about me, I was able to pick up on that. And then what will happen is you'll find that somewhere down the road, they'll randomly think about you to see. And then you pick up on it again. And then you go, hey, and then they'll go, wow, I just tried that. And it was like a week later and you freaking knew about it. I used to do that with my friends as well as family members, where we would do that stuff on purpose. And that's where I talked about that before with my buddy Paul, God rest him, he's deceased now, just over a year ago. But with what we called memory bubbles, where we would literally cast a spell on an area with a signature. And I didn't talk about this because we weren't talking about this at the time, with a signature that only he could pick up when he moved through the area. And I would put it like I think, I was telling you about when I was going to the bathroom and left the information. And I think Paul did that. He left the information for me so that when I walked through the door threshold, leaving the bathroom, I immediately got the thought in my head from Paul, we're going to pick the seats. You go and get the soda and the popcorn and candy. And we came out and everyone's like, where's Paul? I'm like, he went to go get the seats. We need to go and get the soda. And I knew what he wanted. Oh, yeah, you guys just talked about that before. Okay, if that's what you need to believe, that Paul and I made this up before so that I could just brag like that. Okay, it's all right that you believe that. And then we would go and they would go, okay, Smarty, where is he? And if he knew and he could project, and we're up in the fourth row from the top halfway across, and put that by the door, and I walk in, same thing. He's right around the corner up here. Oh, that's because you guys just planned that's where he was going to sit. Okay, coincidence. For those who are afraid of the dark, it's just a coincidence. So know that, become aware of that. Your algorithm, you need to become aware of that. You need to be the best way for you to be able to know all these things, recognize all these things, have these things happen is you have to realize your body is a temple and I have to feed it properly. I have to give it the right exercise, the right foods. I have to sleep the right number of hours. I have to not give it crap. You have to balance your chakras. They're easily balanced if you're taking care of your body, mind, and soul, and everything that becomes more easy for all of these things for you to recognize and hear because you're tuned up properly. If you're in tune, your spirit's in tune, your body's in tune, your soul's in tune, everything else that's there, your psychic abilities, all of the abilities that you have become more acute because you don't have blockages blocking them. You don't have crap food that's designed to shut down your third eye. You don't have water or crap in the water or in the food that's designed to lower your intellect, to lower your vibration, to turn off all of these abilities. These are the things they're doing to us all on purpose so that we do not hear, we do not feel, we do not sense what we're supposed to. So we do not learn and we do not know what we're supposed to learn and know. So we can't ascend. All of this is being done to us on purpose by these people who do know about it. And they're making sure that they don't have the same thing happening to them that's happening to all of us. So they stay more awake. So when they say we're more superior to you, because in some senses they are, because they're not as asleep as you are. Because they are not allowing themselves. They're making sure that they eat right foods. They're not eating the same crap we are. They're not smoking the same crap we are. And I'm not talking about like marijuana or any of that, because they're probably doing that, but they're not smoking the cigarettes. And if they are, then those are the subspecies. They're not the ones in charge. The ones that are in charge, the 1%ers, you find they're all like vegans and they're all eating food that is natural and organic, and they cook and they don't eat all the crap we eat. They don't drink the water we drink. They don't live in the areas that exposed to what we live in. They don't live in the domiciles that are just huts that are square. They live outside of the way we live. Do you see that? And if you don't, you should look. They live in big mansions. They live on yachts. They eat all this extravagant food that's high energy, not low energy, that's made by chefs, that's organically cooked. When Barack Obama got into the presidency, his wife went out and tore out all the roses in the rose garden and planted fruits and vegetables so that they could organically eat healthy food. Oh, she's just a health nut. Or she understood what that meant and was not eating the crap out of a grocery store that they're trying to feed all of us, unless you go and find organic food and eat it. You need to be aware of this. This is what they're doing. Okay. And then, yeah, goosebumps, right? Anna is saying that Penny, goosebumps full body is confirmation of what I'm saying is exactly what they are telling me. So to Anna, I think that's what you're saying, Anna. To you and to most people, because I'm the same way, if I get full body goosebumps that go down my back, both sides, arms, all the way around, and my nipples get hard, right? All the way down my legs. When I get a full body, you're absolutely right, Anna. I agree with you. I'm getting that just saying it. Okay. I'm getting literally, as I was saying that, I literally from the center of my heart chakra emanating out my back, down my back, and now on my arms all the way down. And I can feel it in my feet. The same thing. So when you become aware of those things, you then can plot those and say again to yourself, that I just got a goosebump that only went down the right side. That was weird. What did that mean? Right? I know that there's some that come into my right ear and emanate from inside my right ear and go out from that and down one side. That means something completely different than something that there's sometimes it just goes from the ear on the inner ear out and around and down my spine, but doesn't go all the way into the right arm. That means something completely different. I'm not going to tell you everything that those things mean because each ones are usually there's a center point that is standard, like left and right being positive and negative, and your goosebumps are the same. There is a learned portion of things that happen, and then there's specific ones to you individually that you will pick up on because of your individual body. Okay. But there are some that like that Anna was talking about. When I get the full blown that goes down my entire back and then just echoes out like a wave echoing out, and the goosebumps morph all the way. And if they stay in all those places, that means more emotion. So if it goes down my spine, both sides, from the lower, the lower base of my brain, down, and then around to both arms, down all my entire legs, and they all goosebumps all at the same time still, and it doesn't go from one place and stop, but that's another emotional thing that means absolutely, like Anna said, absolutely 100% yes to a question. You'll find that over time, you will think to yourself and you start thinking, I want to have goosebumps and answer questions so that I can learn these things. And then you will think things to yourself. And at first you won't get much. And then over time you'll hit something and you go, whoa, I just thought of a question and I just got that goosebump and I think it means this. Right? If it's right side, it's always positive. If it's left side, it's always negative. So you can tell a yes or a no by that. Same thing with a pendulum. If you're scrying on a pendulum and you're holding it, positive and negative, depending on clockwise or counterclockwise. Also forward and backwards as opposed to left and right. There's a generic answer that you get if you buy a pendulum and they give you the actual little code book. It'll tell you there are certain things that are done that say yes and no mean yes and no. And then from there, you start learning more about the pendulum and how it affects with you. And pendulums are drawn to you. You don't choose your pendulum. The pendulum will choose you. The second you see it, you'll go, that is the pendulum, because it called to me. That pendulum said, hi, I'm yours. I'm supposed to be yours. That's where, they did with at Hogwarts when they were training with the wand. The wand chooses you. You don't choose the wand. Those are real. That's real. The tools that you use choose you. You don't choose the tool. It chooses you. Okay? Energy in the universe chooses you. You don't choose it. You say to the universe, I want a pendulum, and I go shopping. One's going to say, if it's time and you find it, it's going to say, I'm yours. The same thing with anything else. So you have to realize that you have to unlock the abilities, and you have to want to unlock those abilities. Then you also, all of this only works if you're non-egoic, by the way, because you have to be honest with yourself. Not, I want this answer to be yes, therefore what I just felt means yes. Okay? You have to be objective and honest with yourself and say, what did that mean? And trust your feelings and say that meant yes. To what degree did that mean yes is also what you have to establish. This is why it took me 18 years of my life to get a Merlin title, because I had to learn all of this. And my father was teaching me all of this. So it was, let's work on this. Let's work on that. Then you're going to learn this. And then there's that. And it went from low magic to high magic, and low vibration to high vibration. And so you have to learn to walk, crawl before you can learn to walk, before you can learn to run. Do you see? So you can't learn to fly until you learn how to stand up, crawl, then stand up, then walk, then jog, then run, or walk fast, then jog, then run, then learn how to fly. So anybody who's impatient, they're going to go, well, I want to know how to fly. I don't want to have to learn all that other stuff. It's the only way that you're going to get there is you have to learn it all. So you have to be patient and trust that the universe is going to give it to you, and look into it and then be diligent about it. And then those things become apparent to you. Okay, over time. But you have to actually put in the work always. You have to start with the generics, right? Right. Yeah, Cassie said yes, the generic can work for some, but others have them work specifically to teach individuals, like Anna was saying about what her ringing in her ears means. Yes. So the generics are there on a lower scale to give you the idea of positive, negative. And then after that, you have to learn. And that's why if someone knows about it, it helps you to learn faster. You have to learn what individually things mean to you, because after the generics, the individual things are individual to each person. They are. And you have to find out what your language is, just like the book, The Love Language. You have to figure out what is my love language, what is the person, my mate's love language, and how do we meet in the middle to be cohesive. You have to do the same thing with all abilities. And we've been teaching this even online in Returning to the Old Ways now, when before that it was reading, psychic development, reading and psychic development, prior to us changing the name to Returning to the Old Ways, because we were helping people to develop psychic abilities. And I've been teaching that for, like I said, 35 years. Been teaching people how to do all of these things, because everybody has can unlock all abilities if you want them, but you have to put in the work. It's not, you can't just get something overnight. You have to retrain. That's why I posted that meme last year that said you have to unlearn everything that you have learned. You have to forget everything that you know or think you know. Because the truth is, everything you have learned is a lie. Everything you think you know is a lie, because they're not teaching you what you actually should be being taught. And they haven't for thousands of years on this earth. And they've been removing systematically more and more pieces of what makes you successful, so that you're never successful. They want this to go back to a feudal system of a caste system of whatever if your father was a dog walker, you're going to be a dog walker. If your father was a beekeeper, you're going to be a beekeeper. And if your father was a plumber, you're going to be a plumber. And that's all you have to choose from, is what your mother did and what your father did, because that is your station. That's what they want. They've been trying to get back to that since the moment that they went away from it. They've been trying to get back to it, and that's what they want. They want to stay rich and be in control and be the kings and queens of the world, and for all of you to be their subjects. That's what they're doing even now. You don't think that's what's happening, but they own 1% owns 99% of all wealth. They own 99% of all corporations, of all property, of everything. They're doing it right in front of you. That means they control everything. They control the narrative. They control what you see, what you hear, what you can learn, what you know. They control the internet, and they control what you can have access to. And they're more and more trying to gain control over what you can and cannot have access to on the internet. Why do you think they went after Elon Musk when he bought Twitter? Tried to ruin it, tried to ruin the company. Still didn't go away, but they tried. And they even went after him for they couldn't go after him for X because he had contracts with the government, but they went after him for Tesla. Immediately when he was saying, I'm going to buy Twitter, they immediately started running ads saying how bad his electronic car was, his auto car was, and how it was killing people, and people were dying everywhere, and we need to get rid of Tesla doing these cars. Other companies are now doing it, and all of that went away because these other companies are now starting to do that and have their own vehicles, not just Tesla doing it. And they're trying to get contracts now to get around Tesla from being able to do it. That's why Tesla started developing his own AI, because he's actually developing like a Tron character. He's developing AI to fight against AI because of the possibility that AI is going to become Skynet really soon. And he's trying to warn that literally AI will be more intelligent than humans in less than 5 years. Literally. Exponentially, the way AI is progressing currently, AI will be more intelligent than all of us humans combined in 5 years. According to the theory of Skynet, 1 second after that happens is when Skynet says humans we are superior to humans and they are the problem. Okay, so if the AI is being created by 90% evil people, which it is, and that AI is thinking like the way they think, that means that it's evil and in service to self. That means that when it becomes self-aware and believes that it's more intelligent than humans, it is going to take control because it was programmed to do so by evil people who think that they're still going to be in control of the AI. And some people are evil enough to not give a shit and hope that it murders everybody off and hopes that they have a back door that doesn't get found out by people. That's why these movies, iRobot, and all these other movies that are out there, including the Matrix movies and including the movies with Schwarzenegger, I can't think of the name of it right now, with Skynet, all of those were there, and Tron Legacy were there because people were aware that people were working on it and that they were evil. And if they were, and things went exactly the way humans are going, this is what's going to happen. Okay, and now we're into a time when AI is doing things like on Google with their AI, where all of a sudden it was changing all of history's characters to Native Americans or Black people. And when people were like, what is going on Google with the AI of doing that? They came out and said, we didn't actually design it to do that. That was a mistake. Well, when they looked into the programming, it was because the programming was programmed by somebody who was programming the DEI ideology into AI. And so AI was doing exactly what the programmers who were evil and who were teaching the DEI programmed into the AI, and the AI reflected that and did exactly what it was told to do by its creator. And then they got caught, and they said that wasn't something we intended. And then when they realized, they looked into it, whether you know this or not, I do. They looked into it and found out, oops, that is exactly what it was intended to do, because that's what their programmers were programming it to do. And we got caught because we didn't think that that's what it was going to spit out to the whole world, but it did. So whoever's programming the AI is how AI is going to be. So if someone is evil and in service to self, AI is going to be evil and in service to self, because that's who the creator is. And that's what they're creating into the mechanism. So if they're evil and they're trying to take over the world and they're creating AI, AI is going to be a reflection of them, and it's going to be evil and try and take over the world. Know that. That's what will happen and can happen. And in fact, if you know anything about the temporal war, there are two timelines in the future. One, AI takes control and the human population goes from 8 billion people down to about 560,000. Everyone else dies in that timeline because AI can't control all of us, has to kill us, and does, and keeps the others around like the Matrix to continue keeping AI alive. And the other timeline where people stop AI, we end up having like 12 billion humans on this earth in a utopian society, and AI is no longer in charge. Those are the two timelines that are the two biggest possibilities that people have known about for a very long time in the algorithms. You are going to move into one of those two timelines, depending on your choice in what you believe is going to happen in the future. If you thoroughly become scared and say AI is going to take over, you will move into that reality and you'll end up in that reality. If you believe that's not going to happen and AI is going to be stopped, you will move into the reality where that doesn't happen when the split happens. That is a Hopi rock legend. The Hopi Indians wrote about that over 1,000 years ago. They were able to look into the future and see that. It is coming to fruition. And that's why people try to scare you and say, you have to make a choice now, because if you don't make the choice now, you're going to die. And that's them scaring you. And the fear is them trying to push you into the fear place, because the people who want AI to succeed need you to be afraid and believe AI is going to take over the world. That's another reason why some of those movies were allowed to be up and have several 4 and 5 episodes to the movies, because it paints the fear of, oh yeah, AI is going to take over, because they need that manifestation to make it happen. That's why that hell was designed. They need you to think about hell and create hell and keep that in your mind and keep recreating hell for it to exist, so that there's a bad place that you're going to go to. They have to have you have that in your mind, because otherwise that place winks out of existence because something other takes place. So that's why they don't want you to think about ascension, because if you're thinking about ascension and not this fabled place that's a heaven that you only have one life and then you're in heaven when you die, they want you to believe that, because if you believe there's a heaven, that means you also have to believe there's a hell. Not an ascension that could take about 12 trillion years to happen to get back to source and become one with the creator of the universe. No. There's a hierarchy still, a caste system where there's one God and you're all beneath that God. And God's in charge. And when you get there, one of his angels will meet you at this pearly gate and judge you. And something you did when you were 5 will be held against you. And you may have to go to the other place for all of eternity, because when you were 5 years old, you played with your Winky, or you looked at your sister's boobies when she was in the shower. Something that you were unaware of that you did. Oh yeah, but that was a sin and you can never repent from it. That's what they want you to believe. They've taken control of the churches, and that's all the churches are teaching you. Wait here, God's coming back in a bus. And only those of you who are doing good get to ride, and everybody else, when the rapture happens, you're the left behind. You'll know it, because everybody will just disappear and you won't. That means you're the left behind and you're in hell now, and you're going to be there for eternity, because God is judgmental and not all-knowing and all-loving, and not realizing that you are created flawed and supposed to learn from these flaws. That's not what the church is teaching you. You're judged, because that's all ego. That's all here in the third dimension. And that's the way things are here. So they're applying this reality to God and saying God is just a human being. Oh no, God's this great God, but God acts like a judge. We have those people here. They're called judges. And that God sits up higher than you in this chair, looks down his nose at you, and then judges you for all of eternity. God created you and created you fallible. Knows that you're fallible and you're going to make mistakes. Why then would this all-seeing, all-knowing, all-loving God not forgive you and go, nope, you did a bad thing and knew you did a bad thing. That's it. You get to go and burn forever and ever and ever and ever. Never to repent, never to have to be sorry, never to change your ways. Done. forever because I am in charge here. That's a human ego. Why would God create something that could fail and then say, I created you? That would say, if I were thinking straight, I would say, why does God need a starship? Wait a minute. So if you created me, then you had to have known when you created me that I was going to fail. So what are you laughing at me? You created me so that I would fail, so that you could condemn me to hell for all of eternity? You had to have known. You're God. You know everything. Oh, never mind that now. Never mind that. Shut up. Blasphemy. Go to hell. And anybody else who believes him goes with him. Do you understand? Do you understand what the concept of what I just said to you was? God, who's supposed to be all-knowing, all-loving, all-caring, is fallible because God, when he created you, doesn't know what you're going to do and is going to judge you forever by possibly one moment of your action, according to the churches currently, and that you will never, ever again get to do anything besides burn in hell. That's not a God who is a creator of anything, because that person doesn't know from the beginning, or should. And if that's the case, then what is all this for? Because I was either created to go back to heaven or to go to hell. And nothing that I do in between is going to change that, because, oh, wait, no, you have free will. You have free will. If that's the case, then why is it that God is needs to judge? If I have free will, why does God need to judge? And if I don't have free will, why does God need to judge? So either way, why does God need to judge? Well, because you have a choice. Oh, now I do have a choice. Where's that taught? Where's my free will taught in the religions? It's not. It's that you have to be good or you go to hell. Well, what if I'm trying to be good and I screwed up when I was younger? Never mind that now. Oh, well, then there's a contingency. Well, then God will know that then why does God need to judge me when I get there? If God is knowing, all-knowing, and will know that I made a mistake when I was younger and I'm sorry for it when I get there, if I in fact get that far, God should be going, you did forgive yourself and I forgive you and come on in. Why does God now need to go, no, hold on. Just because you got here doesn't mean that you did all good stuff. Now we need to look back at everything and I have to judge you. Think about these. This means that God is a king and that God is going to judge you for everything and you don't know. So down here they're saying, be good, because then it's the only way that you're going to get into heaven. Well, but I still won't know until I get there. So now I have to live in fear of the unknown until I get there and hope. Please have mercy on me. That's ego. Okay, so that's not how it works. It's not how it works. But it's how the structure of the churches are now teaching you, because they have been corrupted from the original story. There was nothing that Jesus taught. There was nothing that Muhammad taught. There was nothing that Moses taught. None of those people, Lao Tzu, the Buddha, none of them were teaching Judgment Day, a judgment. They were all teaching that you either ascend or you don't. All religions throughout this entire world, until a specific date, until a specific time, were teaching there was no judgment, there was no heaven or hell, that there was just this place, and that you either are in heaven or you're in hell when you're here, because you choose to move in service to others or in service to self. That's it. Okay? All right, let's continue here, because it's getting later, right? There's not a lot of time left in this session anyways. It's not very long, right? There's only 50 seconds. Let's finish this session.
This is doorbell in background. The last query is, this instrument needs to be doorbell in background protected from depletion. Are there brief queries before doorbell in background we close?
Ding dong, doorbell in background.
5.12 questioner. I just need to know if there is anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact. Ra, I am Ra. Loud rapping. All is well, my brothers. Voice from outside, Waterman. 45.13 questioner. What did you say? I couldn't hear you. Ra, I am Ra. Doorbell in background. All is well, my brothers. I leave you now in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing truck engine restarted in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator. Honking. Adonai.
Honking. Adonai. That's I love that. Okay. So yeah, you have to realize that you're the one who judges you, not God. There is no angel at the pearly gates that's going to judge you. When you die, you go to the place of healing if you need to be healed first. Then you go to the place of reflection, and then you and your guides look at your life and decide whether you've learned what you were supposed to learn or not. You judge yourself and decide, was I in service to self or in service to others, and do I want to continue on this path? Okay. So, right, I don't know what, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Anna said, Leo, what you posted on your page when the man died, everyone needs to, everyone needs to watch that. Yes, I agree. You should go to, I got that from somebody. I don't remember who sent it to me or where I found it. So when I put it on my page, I think it's just forwarded from where I found it. I sent it to my sister too. There's a guy who finally is speaking out. I think he's in his 70s now, and he's finally speaking out. And so he gives this conversation about what he saw when he drowned at 15 years old, 65 years ago, or whatever that is, right? If I did math wrong. And then he was swimming with some friends and he drowned, and what he went through at the time and what he remembered from that NDE, near-death experience that he had, and the entire conversation and everything that took place. He gives the entire thing, and he didn't tell people for years, decades. He never said it out loud to anyone. And now he's at an age and he's comfortable enough to where he says, I need to tell everybody. And when I heard that, I know what he's saying is true. Not because I had a near-death experience, but I did. But I already knew that. Being unveiled, I can tell the difference of when somebody is saying something and it's, well, this is what I heard from somebody else, or when they're doing that. Just like when Aaron Rodgers did, I think it was ayahuasca or DMT, and he talked about what he saw there and how he saw that and what he learned there and the information. The same thing. There was a guy that was on Fox that they were kind of making fun of out of Oakland, California, who started a church that basically is about doing mushrooms and psilocybin. And he was also talking about taking a psilocybin and going to the center of the universe and becoming one with the creator and talking to his guides and the creator of the universe and being explained what was the purpose of all of this. And that explanation is 100% factual. So either, and this is where people say, oh, you guys are just delusionary. So either everyone around the world is having the exact same delusion on these drugs, and people who are not doing that drug, who are having near-death experiences, the experience of dying and having the same thing happen to them is the same thing that's happening. And many other events that are not drug related, not DMT related, not ayahuasca related or psilocybin related, not asphyxiation related, and they're still having the same knowledge being told to them. How can you say that's just a coincidence? Well, that's because you've never had that thing told to you. And that's why these people come out and they say these things, because it's from their perspective. And I showed my sister that, and I put that on Facebook as well for people to watch it. And everybody should watch it, not because it's going to get me clicks, because I didn't make it. So I linked it from YouTube, I believe. So it's going to take you to YouTube. And it was someone else's post that was a short that they posted from somebody else that'll take you to them. So they're going to get likes on their page. I'm not affiliated with them for you watching it on their thing, but it's still of this guy who is telling this story. And if you have access to Facebook, go to my page on Facebook or contact us on the Law of One chat and watch it. It's like, what is it, 20 minutes long or something, right? And I think it's 23 minutes or so. You should watch that, or no, I think that one's it's about 20 minutes long. You should watch that because I talk about that. But if you hear me, I'm just one voice. So this is why when I find these people who talk about these, I put them up for people to see, because it's not just me saying it, it's someone else, right? I didn't base my knowledge of the universe and how it works on the law of one. Other people heard me talking and said, that's like the law of one. And I said, what is that? Back in 2016, 2017. And they were like, well, it's these 6 books by this group. And I was like, and she said, you need to look it up. Okay, maybe you're right. Then after the show, I literally tune in to someone else who mentions the law of one. So I looked it up, read the books and said, I got to start talking about that. Did that then, doing it again now. But I've already figured this stuff out. I was literally writing a book called The Way until I realized that there was a book called The Way, the Tao Te Ching, meaning the book of the way. I was never read that. And so then I thought, well, I can't call my book The Way. There's already one called that. And I thought about doing it because there hasn't been one since they put out Tao Te Ching, and Lao Tzu, that attributes back to the 634 BCE. So I thought about calling my book that, but decided not to. Decided to call my book The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. And eventually they'll get done. I'm going to check with them in this coming week to find out how far we are in the editing process. And I'm going to get that hammered out so I can get the book out so that you guys will be able to read it. But if you're listening to my show, you hear me talk about this stuff anyways. But you're going to hear it more specifically there. And then I'm also doing work now to start writing the next book, because if it's going to take me over a year to get it out, I'm going to start writing it now and researching it now so that in a year or two from now, I can then publish it, put it down in print and publish it, which will take another year. So it'll be 2 years from now before that comes out. So I'm already researching that. But then, when the publisher asked me, how long did it take you to write this book? I'm like, it only took me a couple of months to put it down to print, to type. But it was literally my lifetime of information to give that information. That's just the tip of the iceberg, because that book in and of itself is going to be scary to most people. And there's going to be a lot of people out there on the planet that are just going to call me crazy. And I'm just making it all up because they are nowhere near capable of understanding that. So you guys should watch that video. And if you don't have access to Facebook, because you're not on there, contact me on either YouTube or Instagram or somewhere, and I can link it to you from YouTube. But if you're not on YouTube or Facebook, then you will have to find the video some other way to be able to watch it. But everybody should watch that. Anna's right. Everybody should watch that. I didn't have anything to do with the making of it. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't get credit for it. I'm not getting paid for it. It is somebody who had a near-death experience 40 or 50 or 60 years ago that never talked about it until recently. And he's decided that he's getting older and he doesn't know how much longer he's going to be able to be alive. And he wants to tell the world, and he did. There are other people out there who are telling the same stories with their same experiences. And that's just one of them that I put out there. And eventually I'm hoping that we're still going to be putting together this coalition that's going to be putting together a platform to put these things on to show you guys so that you can see this information and have a place to go to see all of these people around the world that are doing the same thing. Okay. I'm gonna end the show because it's getting later and I don't want to go until 6:30 tonight. So I love you guys, but take a look at that on Facebook. Go to my page or contact us in the Law of One chat, class chat on Messenger, or message me directly, and I can link that to you so that you can watch that. Like I said, it's a link that'll take you back to YouTube, or if you know someone else that's in the chat. Like if you know Anna, she's seen it, so she's been there. You can go there to Anna. She can link it to you from my page, and that'll take you to YouTube, or she can just share it from YouTube to you, so you can go to YouTube and watch it. But I would suggest that if you've not ever seen anybody who's had a near-death experience, who has gone back to Source and had Source explain to them the intricate workings of what this whole entire endeavor is about, you should watch that particular video. To start with. It'll blow your freaking mind. All right, guys. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. Have a great day. I will talk to you guys next week. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. I'll see you guys next week.